Balance. Balance for better. That's the theme for this year's International Women's Day. And balance is the word that I hear thrown around time and time again by my clients, and I've heard myself saying too. How do I balance work with life? How do I balance work with my family? How do I balance what I need versus what everybody else wants from me? It can be really hard to figure out balance. And so, with International Women's Day in the calendar for this month, I really wanted to talk a little bit more about how we can create these greater changes in the way that we work so that we can close the gender gap, close the pay gap, and actually have a more equal and harmonious workplace. Now, as I'm talking, you might be thinking, oh, this is all big picture, pie in the sky. And, this doesn't really matter to me for where I am right now because I'm really stressed out. I'm trying to manage the day to day and I just got to look out for myself. And look, I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. And I want you to know that these little changes and these little mini activations that we can have for ourselves do create a ripple effect in the world. I know it can seem sometimes that what we do is insignificant, but I truly believe that change is only going to come with each and individual woman standing up for what she feels is right for her in the workplace, and not from a entitled, it should be this way, angry, it has to be this way approach, but more from a woman standing in her power, compassionately explaining her situation and advocating for herself and the rights of the women in the organization. And so that's really what I want to talk about this week, because I feel like we need to really look at what we can do as individuals to really cultivate the change that we need. The UN has a theme for this year's International Women's Day, and that is to think equal, build smart, and innovate for change. So how do we actually do this? I often find these concepts quite large and quite nebulous and difficult to translate into practical action. Like, how are we going to create, balance for better? How are we going to think equal? How are we going to build smart? How are we going to innovate for change? And I believe the solution to that is to go back to Albert Einstein's quote. Albert Einstein famously said, "You can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it. You have to come into a different headspace, a different way of being in order to solve a problem." And part of the problem, I feel, is that we're living in a society which is overworked, stressed, tired, overcommitting, overscheduled, overdoing, overwhelmed. And so before we can tackle these really big questions of equal pay, equal parenting, gender equality, we've got to look at our state. How are we coming up with these solutions? It's not about coming up with ideas 12 o'clock at night, like with a cup of coffee, like you would if you're pitching for the next day and you've got to, crunch something out with your team. You've really got to nurture the environment and the conditions to be able to come up with solutions. And I get it. It can seem indulgent. It can seem a bit too much, and it can seem a bit unrealistic when you've got deadlines coming at you. And so this week, I encourage you to think about how you taking time out to nurture yourself, to give you some time and space to rest, replenish, restore, can be done. Because it really starts from that place. Looking after yourself and giving yourself the sleep you need, the nutrition you need, the movement you need, the positive thoughts that you need are really going to move the needle to changing your state, changing your consciousness, as Albert Einstein said, to then come up with solutions that work not just for you in your specific situation with work and career and life, but, with the greater global conversation around these things of equal pay, gender equality, etc. And so, if you're curious about how you can do that, I'm actually going to run a free Pleasure Curious challenge. Yes, pleasure curious. When I talk about pleasure, I'm not talking about sex. I'm just talking about shifting the perspective into things that feel good to you, because that's a really powerful way to change your state. You'll come up with more creative solutions. You'll come up with innovative ideas. You'll tap into your creativity when you are feeling more pleasure, more joy, more light. Your energy will be different, and the outcome that you create will be completely different too. So if you're curious about this pleasure challenge, click the link below and sign up. listen to the video, and if you're interested, sign up to the challenge. It's completely free and it's really designed to support you to start to incorporate a little pleasure, a little fun, a little play, to get your knickers out of a twist and to really enjoy the journey so that you can come up with some really creative solutions to your existing dynamic with work and with life. So go and check that out. And in the meantime, I encourage you to know that there's no one in the world who can do what you do the way you do it. So own your gifts, own your talents, and be yourself. Sending you so much love.